Divorce, like many breakups, but mainly divorce, it's a lot like dealing with death. Except it's not as merciful as death. You see, in my opinion and from my experience, death is final. There is closure. You deal with the aftermath of something. You deal with memories, you deal with all of that. But it's final. You know it's over. Whereas dealing with divorce or dealing with a breakup, the person still exists. And this idea of reckoning with the fact that they still exist but just aren't existing with you, that can a lot of times be much harder to deal with. It takes a much longer journey. And those aren't even just my words. Those are also the words of my therapist, and that's something that I've had to work through myself. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Bibishay, and in 2021, I left my marriage home. I made the very difficult decision of leaving. And this was after a year, or 375 days to be precise, of being married to the wrong person. It was a very toxic relationship. I feel like we both brought out the worst in each other. And it was like astronomically catastrophic. It was so bad. And I came out of that genuinely without a single clue as to who the heck I am. Who am I? I had no idea. And I had no idea where to begin in order to even answer that question. Ow. Who am I? You know? And that happens a lot after we leave a horrible marriage or leave a horrible relationship or whatever and choose ourselves. But I want to tell you how I made the decision to end my marriage once and for all. So I thought that this was the love of my life, right? That's why you get married. You get married because you believe in the goodness of this thing, whatever this thing was. But the fact of the matter was that I was more miserable than I ever knew a person could be. I didn't even know this level of misery could exist. And it was to the point where I was crying myself in the morning, like wetting my pillow in the morning. Every morning I'd wake up and I was like, oh, this is still my life. And I would like weep. And then I would wet my pillow, drench my pillow at night as another day was over. Because I was happy the day was over, but I was sad that now I'm still going to sleep in this bed and tomorrow I'm gonna wake up in the same situation. And it seemed endless. For so many reasons. Divorce tends to make you feel like it's final, right? And that is the goal of marriage, is that it is once and for all. But in my situation, it was even more complicated because I'm a Christian and I'm a Christian in Egypt. So not only does my faith, have lots of layers and so many people look at this in a different way and there are very many different opinions on, whether or not Christians should get divorced or not. Like that was a whole conversation I felt like I had to make and had to have in the middle of complete disparity and despair. I don't know if disparity is the word. I think it's just despair. Anyway, and so I felt like, okay, great. Now I have to explain myself. I have to explain my situation and my circumstances and the reasons why this is genuinely 100% killing me on a daily basis and why I need to leave. I needed to explain that to pastors, to family members, to friends, to people in the church. Like it was a whole thing and it was so hard. And the situation was hard enough. I didn't need that added layer of difficulty, And so when I made the decision to leave, there were a few triggers. I remember going on a few walks before I made the decision, and I feel like there was one specific moment that was like flipped it for me. And basically I was like, yeah, I'm getting this divorce. I'm gonna figure out a way. I'm gonna fight this battle to like win my freedom. And basically what happened was, so I go on lots of walks. I love going on walks. I feel like that is where my mind, my thinking is at its clearest. And so I was just on another walk one day And I was listening to a podcast, and it was the We Can Do Hard Things podcast by Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach and Glennon Doyle's sister. I'm not sure what her name is. But anyway, I was just listening to that episode, and the topic was the concept of quitting. What does it mean to quit? And how quitting isn't necessarily always a bad thing. And that was a pivotal moment for me. So they went back to like the etymology of the word quit, and I don't remember all the details right now, but it was basically like quitting now, only now, has a negative connotation. And it started having a negative connotation during the Industrial Revolution, when we were trying to push people to work and more people needed to be in factories and working and stuff. And so for you to quit, that means that you are giving up on the system, that you are basically bailing on the system, turning back from the thing that at the time was believed to be your purpose. Before the Industrial Revolution, though, quitting was connoted to mean to set yourself free, to be free of something. And so ultimately, when you set yourself free from something, that something is connoted to be something bad, is expected to be something bad most of the time. Why would you want to set yourself free from something that isn't bad, right? And so they really dissected this idea of quitting and how sometimes quitting can be the key that truly sets you free from staying in something that is horrible, staying in something that is genuinely harmful. I realized that my unhappy marriage, unhappy is a very, very mild word compared to what I was actually feeling, but staying in an unhappy marriage wasn't only harmful to myself, it was also harmful to the people around me. It was also toxic, not just for myself because I was stuck in this marriage. It was also harmful because the people who loved me and the people who saw me and who were doing life with me, like my family, my friends, all those people, they were miserable, seeing how miserable I was. And so I knew I needed to quit. I knew I needed to break free from this trap that I was in. And I think looking back, that podcast episode really made a difference, because it wasn't just the idea of what quitting actually means, it was also the idea of that saying no to something. Like when you quit, you essentially say no to something. And saying no to something is essentially saying yes to something else. And I remember coming back from that walk, and I picked up my pen and paper and I started journaling, and I was like, in staying in this marriage, what am I saying no to and what am I saying yes to? And I found out that by being in this marriage, I was saying no to myself, to my happiness, to my individuality, because the marriage I was in, not that this is all marriage, the marriage I was in was sucking my individuality out of my life. And so I was saying no to my individuality, to my passions, my goals, my dreams. I was saying no to all the ways that I potentially could have grown as an individual. And I was saying yes to my husband, who was not someone with whom life was enjoyable, was not someone who pushed me to be better, was not someone who enabled me to grow, was not someone who gave me love. And I wasn't feeling loved. I wasn't feeling seen or secure or wanted at all in this marriage. But I was saying yes to something that was pulling me down, and I was saying no to myself. And then on another sheet of paper, I wrote, in leaving this marriage, what would I be saying yes to and what would I be saying no to? And the answer was so clear and simple. I would be saying no to a system with this person that drags me down. And I would be saying yes to myself. I would be saying yes to freedom. I would be saying yes to potential. I would be saying yes to a future. Because I really had to sit with myself, and in the same episode, they said something like, before you make a decision, before you decide to quit, ask yourself, where do I see myself in 5 years? Is this thing that I'm considering quitting still gonna be in my life in 5 years? And if it is still gonna be in my life in 5 years, is it gonna be serving me? Is it going to be also as a part of the person I want to be, the goals I want to achieve? or no. And that should be like a big deciding factor in your life. And I asked myself, where do I see myself in 5 years? And I remember that at that point in the podcast, I literally had to sit down, like I had to find the nearest bench, and I sat down and I wept because I couldn't see 5 years from that moment. I couldn't see 2026. I fully believed, and this was not like I wasn't delirious, I wasn't anything. I genuinely, consciously was aware of the fact that I couldn't see myself existing in 5 years. I figured I would either kill myself or like take my own life, which genuinely I considered several times during that marriage, or that I would get like some kind of horrible heart disease or like suddenly collapse of a heart attack or something. I saw myself dead in 5 years because of this marriage. And then I asked myself, why? Why would I say no to life? Why would I say no to myself and to my life? For a yes to a person who doesn't deserve it. A person who genuinely wasn't even aware I was going through all this turmoil, despite the fact that I tried on several occasions to explain myself, to express my pain, to express my struggle and my needs. And that was it. I made the decision to quit. I made the decision to leave. And so in November of 2021, I packed up my things and I left. And I walked away. And there was when the journey of healing had to begin. Of course, I couldn't start healing right away. I needed to grieve first. And that, I would say, is step one of facing divorce or going through divorce, is give yourself room to grieve. Give yourself room to feel it. Like we said at the beginning, it's almost like a death, except in some ways, in many ways, it's even worse than a death. And you need to be able to sit down and genuinely feel that out. Genuinely cry your heart out. I would call my friends up in the middle of the night and say, like, I need you to stay on the phone with me, I'm not okay. Or I would like message my friends and say, I need you to take me out, I need to go out, I need to like leave my house. Because here in Egypt, I had to move back in with my parents. The option of like getting my own place and moving out and all that stuff just wasn't an option for cultural reasons. And therefore, going back to my parents' house and moving back into my little tiny bedroom, which before felt huge and now all of a sudden felt tiny, just wasn't helping me at all. It was a lot like regression. It felt a lot like I was taking a million steps back, when in life you should be taking steps forward. And so I would like call my friends and be like, I need you to get me out of this house, let's move, like take me out, get me out of here. And so I gave myself room to grieve. But for today's episode, I wanted to talk to you guys about just 6 steps that I believe, or 6 tips that I believe could really help you if you're going through a breakup or a divorce or just anything else that is that kind of before and after on your life, anything that has that kind of before and after effect on your life. If you're looking to heal from any of those things, just these are 6 things that have helped me a great deal, and I just want to share them with you. So number 1 is journaling. Journaling. There's a big difference between knowing that thoughts and emotions are somewhere in your body, somewhere in your mind, and actually picking up a pen and paper and articulating exactly how you feel, why you feel it, maybe telling yourself the story of something that happened and reliving an experience. Sometimes that's really bad, but when you relive specific experiences as you're going through healing, that helps your mind process. It helps you go through it, it helps you dissect it, digest it, move on, it helps you get it out of your system. Otherwise, it just stays stuck in your body or stays stuck in your mind and keeps you from moving forward. So number 1 would 100% be journaling. Number 2, you could be considered as a little bit counterintuitive, but I did this for years and years and years, even before my divorce, but I insisted on doing it as I was healing from divorce. And that was not just journaling, but gratitude journaling. And you would think, okay, if I'm going through something that is so earth-shattering and heartbreaking and life-changing as divorce, the last thing you'd be able to think of were things that you're grateful for. Because especially with divorce, when you're physically unable to get out of bed, when you feel like everything in your life is strange, nothing makes sense, nothing is familiar, nothing looks like the life that you imagined for yourself, or the life that you actually had, or the life that you imagine continuing having in the future, it becomes super hard to pause intentionally and look at the parts of your day that went well, the things that you can actually be grateful for. But I was stubborn with myself in this area and decided I'd keep doing this on a daily basis every single night before I went to sleep. And believe it or not, even on my hardest days, even on days where I was literally writing my gratitude list in tears, I could still find things I was grateful for. And there's something about pinpointing things you're grateful for that truly sets you free, truly liberates you. It alleviates some of that pressure. And I know that for sure, like, so much research has gone into this, and so many people have like done studies on the effect of gratitude on the brain and everything like that. I remember reading them and watching videos and TED Talks and things like that. And I know for a fact from experience that gratitude journaling truly does make a huge difference. It truly, truly does. So number 1 is journaling. Number 2 is gratitude journaling. And the third point is just what I said earlier, is lean into community. Lean into friends and family. I feel like this is the purpose of friends and family. In this world, maybe sometimes it's so much easier to run to friends for good times, for laughs, for nights out, for trips and travels and all those kinds of things. And then we feel ashamed sometimes of the way our lives are unfolding, or we feel like, okay, we don't want to burden other people, or we don't want to bring other people into the mix, our miserable mix or whatever. But the fact of the matter, guys, is that this is exactly what we were made to be for each other. This is the point of community. It's the point of having people in your life that you know you can lean on. Those can be your friends, they can be your family, definitely your therapist. I strongly recommend therapy, but we're gonna get into that. Is definitely go see a therapist. That's a person. Lean into your friends and family. Call them. Be vulnerable with them. Don't be ashamed. Don't be scared to cry in front of your friends. I remember one night we went out. We were literally out. We weren't even at someone's house or anything. We were out. And I don't even know what the trigger was. I don't even remember what the thing that happened was, but all of a sudden, I could not control myself from weeping. I mean, like, full on weeping, to the point where my friends, they were like, you know what? How about we leave here? And we went over to my friend's house who lived nearby so that I could be more comfortable to cry. And we literally just left and we went, and I just couldn't stop crying. And they were there for me, and they held me, and they listened. You'd be surprised how wonderful your friends can be, how wonderful your family can be. And they know you're going through so much, and all they want is for you to open up, because they want to be there. They don't know how they can be there. People feel helpless when their loved ones are going through pain. And so by opening up, it's like you're telling them, you can come in. You can be here for me this way. The fourth thing would be ride the wave. And this is something my therapist told me in the thick of things, when things were really, really bad. She said, grief comes in waves. At a certain point, the waves are going to be so high, you're going to feel like you're drowning underneath them. You're going to feel like you can't stand a chance. There's no way you're going to make it out of this alive. There's no way. But that's when our minds try to trick us into thinking that we can resist the wave, that we can, swim against it with all our power, with all our might, because we refuse to give in to this pain. We refuse to give in to this grief, these emotions. We refuse. And so what do? We swim against the wave. And that is how we drown. That is how the wave literally washes us over. And for a brief moment or for an extended period of time, we find ourselves unable to swim, unable to breathe, zero energy, zero power to face this situation that we're going through. But what my therapist said was that when we learn to accept the waves, to swim with the waves, to let the waves wash us over, we are softer, we're more surrendered, and the wave can take us and carry us to a more level sea level until the next wave comes. And don't resist the waves. Don't resist the emotions, tough and hard and difficult and unbreathable as they may be. Don't resist them. I used to keep myself from crying. I used to resist the tears because I was like, no, I refuse to cry over this man one more time, one more tear. What that did was it caused this resistance, and the waves washed over me, and I was out for longer. I learned to ride the waves, let them carry me, and there was so much grace in that. There was so much tenderness in that. And I found that eventually the space between the waves started gradually becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas before, the waves were one after the other, after the other, after the other. The first few days were a wave, a giant tsunami every single day. And eventually, as I learned to navigate the waves and surrender, the waves started becoming further and further apart. Until now, I hardly ever have waves. I don't even remember when the last time was that I had a wave. Next is combat your emotions with facts. And this is something that I didn't only do with my divorce. I also did this in my previous breakup, where I made a video to myself that was only for my eyes to see, for my eyes only, where I basically spoke to myself, the future self that I knew would one day come and cry over the good times, because I'm the type of person who tends to remember the good things more so than the bad things. I needed to have something that I could use, something that I could come back to that would remind me of the good things, the bad things, remind me of the reasons why I left. That was such a gift to myself, making this video to myself. I also have a folder on my phone where I kept all the times where I was in tears. I literally would be weeping, and I'd think to myself, I need to remember how horrible I feel right now, so that when I forget how bad it was, when my mind tricks me into believing that it was only sunshine and butterflies and rainbows, I can have actual proof and actual evidence of just how terrible this person made me feel, how terrible what he was making me go through actually was. So I have pictures and I have a video to myself where I was reminding myself of the reasons why I had to leave, why I made this impossibly difficult decisions to pack my things and go. Combat your emotions with facts. No one leaves their marriage home for no reason. You don't just leave a marriage because it's slightly inconvenient. Chances are, if you're leaving a marriage, it's having a profoundly negative impact on your life. Make note of those reasons so that you can keep returning to them, so that when your emotions are overwhelming, you can introduce logic into your thinking and remember why you left, why you made that impossibly difficult decision in the first place. And the last but not least is identify your triggers. This again comes with time, and it comes with working with a therapist, and it comes with a lot of personal accountability, where you are journaling regularly and looking yourself in the face and looking yourself in the mirror and genuinely identifying, your process and going through the entire process completely transparently. This is where you're able to not be a victim to your circumstances, but instead to learn, to grow, to realize that you had agency in your decision, you had agency in your marriage. Take responsibility for the things that maybe you did wrong, so that moving forward you can be better. But then as you move forward and as you learn to heal, your triggers will start coming more and more up to the surface. You'll be able to identify them so much more. And therefore, as a result, the more that you're able to identify your triggers, the more that you're going to be able to work on them, the more that you're going to be able to take responsibility for your responses to those triggers, so that now you no longer just react to your life or react to your triggers or to the pain points, but now you respond from a place of self-awareness, of growth, of self-love. Because when you leave a marriage, you're saying no to something that doesn't serve you, to something that is very painful. You are essentially doing a very brave thing by facing society, by facing people's probing questions, by stepping into the unknown. Marriage is such a known thing. Now I know I'm married, the end. Now you're back into the unknown. Now you don't know if you're gonna get married again, or who you're gonna get married to, or what your future is gonna look like, because this big cornerstone has been taken outside of your life. Acknowledge the pain that comes with that, the difficulty that comes with that. Acknowledge the bravery that it took to leave, and then grow. Step into the unknown. Acknowledge also that this is now a brand new chapter, and you can make of it whatever you want. So just choose to make of it something that is good, something that is growing both to you and to the people around you. If you're going through this, if you've watched the video so far, I am so sorry that you're having to go through this. Divorce, breakup, death, all these endings are so hard. And the pain that comes with them is so hard. But I am here a year and 1 month after officially becoming divorced, and 2 years after leaving the home, because it took a whole year for me to actually get divorced. But I'm officially 1 year officially divorced, and 2 years just having left home. And I'm telling you, you can be proactive, and you are strong enough to face this. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below what kinds of videos you'd like me to make, what kinds of topics you'd like us to talk about, what kinds of vlogs you'd like to see, maybe on the more fun side. This is a community that's for all of us. I love hearing from you guys. So yeah, please drop your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Or don't, because you don't have to. Only subscribe if you actually like this channel. And I'll see you next time.